Done a lot of research on the Padgett family, and I don't have proof, but I believe that our Padgetts came from England from all the things that I've read in family stories, and probably came into Virginia because most people did migrate into Essex County, Virginia. The first the first record that I find that I know is our ancestor was 1772 tax record in Surry County, North Carolina, lists Abraham Padgett paying taxes. Then the 1778 also has him paying taxes in Surry County. And in 1785, the Surry tax records show Elizabeth Padgett. She had 50 acres. Next door to her was Abraham Padgett, had 50 acres. And then later on, in 1786, the Surry County tax records, same district, Captain Atkinson's district, showed Elizabeth, 50 acres, Ephraim, 50 acres, and John, 200 acres. I think that John was probably guardian of his younger brothers, and they'd had 50 acres each. So John was paying his own taxes for 50 acres, and 50 for William, 50 for Abraham, and 50 for Edmund, because he was paying taxes for 200 acres. That indicates that that Abraham died before 1786 in Surry County. Now, we follow that up with John's story. He applied for his Revolutionary War pension in Rutherford County on September the 10th, 1832. He states in his application that his first term of service began in June of 1780 as a volunteer from Rowan County, North Carolina. 3 months service, and his company was released. Soon after that, he volunteered from Rowan County, his family having moved there, he states. And then John states that sometime after the war, he and his family moved to Cheshire District, South Carolina, which we do find them down there in the records, and remained there for several years, and then the family moved to Rutherford County, North Carolina, and lived there. All of the brothers, John, William, Ephraim, Edmund, all of them stayed in Rutherford County, I think, the rest of their lives, except our Abraham, who wandered off to North Georgia, shows up in Hall County. Now, the mother, she lived there with John all of her life. She died in January the 29th, 1831. And there's an article in the North Carolina Spectator stating that Mrs. Elizabeth Padgett, in her 99th year of age,
wow,
Mrs. P had been confined only 15 days previous to her decease. And until that time, she had maintained an uncommonly and almost useful activities.
wow. So she was healthy when she died, all the way up until a couple weeks before. Now tell me, just for the record, because a lot of people don't know, who is this John and Abraham? You said the Abraham, which one came to Georgia?
Our Abraham, son of Abraham and Elizabeth. Abraham and Elizabeth had children, Ephraim, Edmund, John, William, and Abraham.
And the Abraham is the father of
Asa.
Of Asa.
And
father of Asa.
And then Asa is the father of William.
And Asa is the father of William.
So that's where we come up. So William Marion Padgett, Reverend Padgett, his father was Asa, and Asa's father was Abraham, and Abraham's who you're talking about.
And his parents were Abraham,
and
who died in Surry County, and Elizabeth, who lived to be 99 and died in Rutherford County.
Okay, so that's who those people are. I want to make the connection so we have through that.
So
And
both the Abrahams died in Surry County.
did both father and son?
No, our Abraham died. The son of Abraham that died in Surrey County died in Hall County, Georgia. That's our ancestor.
That's the Abraham that came to Georgia, North Georgia, and that was our Abraham, which is
All the boys stayed there with the mother in Rutherford County
We need to find
once
out
they
where
moved
he's
there,
buried.
except our Abraham.
and he came to Georgia.
And we don't know where he is buried, somewhere in Hall or Dawson County. Dawson was taken off of Hall County. At the time when he was there, he might have been living in the area that is actually Dawson County, but at that time,
Was
earlier it was Hall County. But we have been to the Hall County Courthouse and the Dawson County Courthouse, and we find no records of death or anything. Okay, I'm starting with our oldest ancestor that came to North Georgia, or came to Georgia. He came to what is Hall County, Georgia now. His name was Abraham Padgett. He came with his wife, Rhoda Padgett. Her father was Job Felton, and he was down in Oglethorpe County, Georgia, which is not too far from Hall County. I'm not sure why Abraham came to Hall County, because all 4 of his brothers stayed in Rutherford County. Our Abraham was in Rutherford County in the 1800 census, but then he shows up down in 1810 in Pendleton District, South Carolina. Well, you're talking about a distance of 100 miles from Rutherford County to Pendleton, South Carolina, and then over again another 100 miles over into Georgia, into Hall County, Georgia. So I'm not sure if he got a land grant in Hall County. I never found it. But by 1820, he was in Hall County, Georgia with his family. And then 1830, he was in the census in Hall County. And 1840, he shows up in the census in Lumpkin County. But the counties expanded and other counties were cut out of counties. And it may have been that he never moved, but he showed up in the Lumpkin. Actually, in 1834, he showed up in a 1834 census in Lumpkin County. So I'm not real sure, but and then he died sometime after 1843 because his will and estate is filed in Dawson County, Georgia, in August of 1843, and it lists all of his children and his wife, Rhoda. Rhoda lived another few years because in the 1850 census, she shows up in Cherokee County, and she's 76, and she's living with 2 of her children, William, which is 50, and I'm not sure how they pronounced it, Didmuah, Dadima, a daughter who was 45, and they're in Cherokee County.
But you're correct about the counties. A lot of times on the census they would show different counties, but the person never really moved. It was just how they formed.
They formed and
changed.
They changed the county boundaries where the person actually never really moved.
Yeah.
Now, Rhoda and Abraham Padgett had 11 children, and we descend through their son Asa, who was born May the 28th, 1809. And he and his wife Mary Villiard are buried in Dawson County, Georgia. They married in Hall County. One thing that I really like is I tried to do a lot of church records, and the first one I find is that Abraham, but it's just Abram, and Rhoda, R-O-D-Y, Padgett, received by letter February 19th, 1825 at Yellow Creek Baptist Church in Hall County. And then several other entries of the family. And Jesse and Asa, I think that's our Asa, was received March 18th of 1831. And then Dedema and Isaac were received in August of 1831. And then in October the 19th of 1833, our Asa was cited for fighting.
That's so interesting. It makes them
And
come to life.
I know, it makes you realize they weren't quite as high and mighty as you think. They were just
They were
people.
just
They were just human. And you have record of that from the churches?
Churches. Well, I don't have the record of it. I actually just have a transcript
The
that I
transcript,
typed. They wouldn't let me do it, and I didn't have a camera back then.
Okay.
And then on March 15th of 1834, Abraham and Rhoda, Isaac and Dedema took their letter of dismission. So then I went to another church, and Rhoda is received by letter. Jedediah, Seneth, another child, and there's no dates on the record, but it was Liberty Baptist Church in Dawson County, Georgia.
So these letters of being received and then dismissal is when they stopped going. They were members
Changed churches.
They changed churches.
Mhm.
Okay. So when they were received, these letters of being received is when they started going to a church there.
And in those records, there's a list of brothers of the church, and there's no Padgetts listed at all. And I read all of them. I put on this thing that I read all of them. In 1837 to 40, the Association of Baptist Ministers and Deacons was held in Lumpkin County, actually March 11th, 1837, and it shows some petitions for an A. Padgett from Yellow Creek Church and an Isaac Padgett. And then on December the 9th, 1837, another son, Jesse Padgett, led prayer. And we know that Jesse was a preacher. That's
What about Asa's?
brother of our Asa. And
then Asa's son William is our William, and
And
he was a
preacher.
Padgett. We have a lot of pastors and preachers in our line of Padgetts.
And then there's a note, April the 11th, 1840, in the minutes that a letter of dismissal for Isaac Padgett and Nathan Padgett. And it says, through old brother Abraham Padgett, and it was granted. So evidently the father went and got a letter of dismissal from for Isaac and Nathan. Isaac had moved to Pickens County, Georgia. I'm not sure where Nathan was at that time, but I think that they had their father get their letter so they could join, probably Isaac, I know, joined Salem Church. Salem doesn't have any records, but he's buried there, and the family said that they all went to church there.
And
so.
almost all of William's family is buried there, William and Susan.
All of them, just about.
And so that was our first. So Abraham was our first Padgett that lived in Georgia, and they came from North Carolina. And then that's where all of our descendants were, the North Georgia Mountain Padgetts.
Mm-hmm.
So it went from Abraham, that was married to Elizabeth, down to Abraham, who was married to Rhoda,
They came to North Georgia.
that came to North Georgia. And then their son was Asa, and Asa was the father of William. And that is our shared descendant,
Yes.
your second great grandfather, and my third.
Yeah, he's just our first.
Your first great grandfather and my second great grandfather was William, Reverend William Padgett. And then you've got the records here.
This is census records that I have. Let me turn this over so you can not get. And I've tried to list who I thought the children were, because on census records it just says like 26 to 45 and 3 boys or whatever, you know.
Right.
And so I have tried to list who the children of Abraham and Rhoda would have been.
But you have his will as well. You have a
I
copy
do
of
have a
his
copy
will.
of his will.
And this will is,
I think this is the first page of it. This is the will of Abraham Padgett, who came to North Georgia from Rutherford County, North Carolina.
that's amazing. And this was Abraham's will.
Abraham's will.
Abraham that was married to Rhoda.
And this is the second page. You need to get this too, because here we've got some people signing, including Rhoda.
So she signs it, and then how many children did they have?
They had 11, let me look it back again. 11 children. And as in all families, some of them died younger. But this is the Hezekiah Fulton. This is son-in-law. Elijah, Asa, Nelson, Jesse, Nathan, Isaac, William, Jedediah, and Rhoda, the wife. They all signed.
All listed in his will. That's amazing. And you found this in the courthouses?
Mm-hmm. In Dawson County.
Dawson County Courthouse? That is amazing. Thank you so much.